Hello everybody, this is the Rustic Engineman, also known as JH55000. Today I'm going to be showing my new E2 Locomotive, which is an add-on for Train Simulator 2016. I've been working on the engine for a few months now, and it is at a point now where it's ready for release. Well, it's nearly ready, it just needs the new sounds, which are being done by Steam Sound Supreme. So it should sound pretty fantastic when it's done. The route I'm going to be using is my Norfolk Coastal Railway, which will be used in my series Steam by the Sea when I've actually got it finished. As you can see, there's still a lot that needs doing, but it's starting to come along quite nicely, so hopefully you'll enjoy seeing it today. First of all, I'm just going to get the points set how they need to be, which I probably should have done before I started recording, but there you go. This is the first time I've done a narrated video, so there might be a couple of muck-ups here and there, but I'm sure we'll suffer through it together. This is the E2 model. It is in London Brighton South Coast Railway passenger brown. The engines were never seen in this colour because they were primarily used as shunters and light goods and pilot engines. So they would never have been in this colour. They would have pretty much always been black, unfortunately, but this is going to be part of the pack because I think it is a lovely livery for the engine. The engine includes changeable numbers, which I will splice in there. It also has working steam effects for most things, and it has changeable height codes for every single lamp eye. I say every single one. The top or the middle right one doesn't work because it doesn't need it. So I'll just show that off quickly. Each end has a tail lamp which is shown. I'll leave the top one on because this is a stopping passenger train, so I'll leave that on. And on the back you'll also get a nice set of lamps. The bottom left one, if you're looking from the back, you have to not have the white one on and the red one on at the same time because you'll cover them up and look a bit odd. Anywho, let's get rid of them. The coaches I'll be pulling are based on Great Western four-wheelers, which I used ratio model kits for the basis, so they weren't actually done from the actual things, if there's any of them still about. I don't know if there are. This picnic coach is based off of an M&GN picnic coach, which stands for Model and Go Nowhere, or Missed and Greatly Needed, however you'd want to look at it. It was one of the main railway companies that operated on the Norfolk, or in Norfolk. Engine's blown off there, there's a nice plume of steam. And this is based on a London Brighton South Coast Railway four-wheel third class brake coach, and I chose to have these in there because I think they're rather spectacular designs for them. And they're all in my Norfolk Coastal Railway livery, although the lighter blue will eventually be changed to the darker blue to suit the brake coach. This is basically how Cromer Beach Station would have looked back in its heyday, except this bit on the right overran a bit. It's gone over a bit too far, so, but I think you're allowed a bit of artistic license. These are going to be Torque engines, so I don't think it's too heavily based in reality, but I think it's quite nice. But she's not going anywhere for a minute, so I'll just tell you a bit more about the route. Not in real life, this is the terminus of the station. Anyone who's been there would know that where the engine and goods shed are, there's now a Morrison's. And I think on the left there's now an Argos and things. Don't know about you, but I'd rather have the railway. And in real life this would be the terminus station, but for my stories there's a bit bolted on afterwards which actually goes through the town, which has made me alter some of the roads a bit. And, well, as you can see, this part of the town is completely empty at the minute. But this goes on to a small village called Trollbrook, which has a section which goes along a cliff pass after a nice long tunnel. Obviously through the town there is a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit so that no one gets hit, and there's strict rules on no using of injectors or cylinder cocks, because you could hurt someone. If anyone's wondering about the pannier tank, he's just there to make the turntable work properly, because for some reason in Train Simulator sometimes the turntables just don't appear at all, which is a bit odd. And if you drive anything into them when it's not there, you just fall into an abyss. And I think I've rambled on enough about Cromer Beach Station. Let's take the ET for a spin. The model has been made using the original drawing, or copies of the original drawings for the E2, so they are fairly accurate. Though one thing I have had to change is the driver's side injector. So while it did have the water handle on it, it didn't have the steam handle on it. So, because it would have originally had a weir pump bolted onto the left-hand side of the tanks. But these got taken off because I think they were just too unreliable, or I can't remember what the main issue with them was, but they scrapped them in favour of proper water tanks, water injectors rather. So I've had to put this on based on, and I based it off of a Hunslet Industrials injector. I'm not sure which one they would have had because there's sadly no photographs of an E2's tank, cab rather. Apart from that, everything is fairly accurate, apart from this lubricate. I had to stick that somewhere because it wasn't on the original drawings. And I looked up Southern lubricators, and this is one that was used on a couple of them. So it's a fairly bog standard one, I think, but I think it looks good on the fireman's side. Right, enough rambling, let's get this old girl moving. One thing about this engine is it makes steam quite fantastically, so if you don't leave the reverser fully in forward or back gear, you will not use that much steam. Bit of an odd thing, but there you go. I don't think too many people would complain about it. If you've got a really hilly route, you don't want to... Although it does start to drop if you start going up and down hills all the time, which this route does have. Because as anyone who has ever been to Norfolk will know, it is one of the hilliest places in the country. It only says it's flat needs a good slap, because it really isn't. Most of this line is uphill if you're going this way. Until Steam Sound Supreme come up with their sound pack for the engine, it is currently using their Great Western Pannier Tank pack, which sounds rather fantastic, I think. But I think if it does as good a job on their other ones as on this one as they didn't have on their other ones, I think it should sound rather fantastic. Because I'm sure most people agree most of their sound effects sound rather fantastic. As you can see, it's still blowing off steam, so I might just whack the cylinder cocks open just to get rid of a bit of steam, just to stop them blowing off. Looks like the engine disappeared for a few minutes. Anyone who's followed me for the last few years will know that I used to work with trains, but I decided to switch just because trains in New Era seem to be a bit of a letdown. It might be better than it was now, but I think the physics in Train Simulator are just superior in every single way. So if you want a proper railway experience, I would get this Train Simulator 2016, because you have better textures. So I never saw an engine with that kind of glossiness on trains. This is where the line splits. The line on the right goes to Sheringham, Weybourne and Holt and the station of bolted onto the end High Coleman. The line on the left goes down the line to Norwich. Which, strangely enough, didn't actually, well, most of the line suffered, but Norwich station is fairly how it would have been arranged back in the 50s. All that's changed is one of the small depots on the left hand side has been changed into Riverside. Luckily in Train Simulator you can use Google Maps to get your references for the routes. This is how I've made most of this route so far, because it's actually quite a fantastic tool, because you actually get that bit of realism that you probably wouldn't be able to get in trains unless you had a ridiculous amount of photos of the route or just took a video as you went along. The controls that we have in here, we have a control for the Westinghouse pump, although it doesn't actually do anything. It should have turned off the steam effect for the Westinghouse pump, and hopefully the audio, if Steam Sound Supreme give it some, but I couldn't get the coding right for some reason, it just wouldn't work. We have water controls for both injectors, although this is the bog standard controls for injectors, so they automatically shut themselves off. I suppose it's a thing so you don't actually accidentally sort of spill all your water. There's a control for the sander, which you can see just come on down on the left, right, wrong. Turn that back off because you don't actually need it. Obviously working reverser, working stoking control, loco brake, which I should actually do a little bit because of the speeding, though it doesn't say so. I haven't actually done the speed limits for this section yet. Working cab doors on both sides. The handbrake works, but I won't demonstrate that right now because I will grind to an undignified halt. And as you can see, if you open the windows and the doors, they do actually open on the model. As you can see, we are still blowing off because this engine makes steam quite nicely, so I'm just going to whack the injector on for a minute. Unfortunately, because I don't know how to do the advanced coding for steam engines, you do have to use the injector control on the heads-up display, or the Fisher-Price toolbar as some people call it. I don't know, I find it easier. Well, it does lack that tiny bit of realism. It is user-friendly. This is West London, I think it is. And in real life, this station doesn't have the buildings, it just has a couple of shelters. I put them on because I thought it needed a bit more character. It had just been a bit too plain otherwise. I think we're in the coach, in the station rather. Yep, just. I would prefer to be a bit further on. Basically today I'm going to take her up to Weybourne, run around the train, come back to Sheringham, then take a small goods down to the fictional port that I've added on. So the cock's open to get going. Actually started using a little bit of steam. Thanks to the notes on the drawings, I have actually been able to make the steam simulation for this engine fairly accurate. So these engines might have just been fantastic steamers as they were when they were built, but I don't know. Fortunately, none of them survived into heritage running. So win a heap on the lottery, and eventually they'll probably remain extinct, but the drawings for them do still exist. And if you ever get a chance, I would go and see them because they are rather fantastic. They're kept at the National Railway Museum in York, along with thousands and thousands of other drawings. As most, if not all, of the people who follow me on YouTube know, the London Brighton South Coast E2 was the basis for Thomas the Tank engine, originally, with the back of its running plate levelled out. Unfortunately, because of its licensed nature, I won't be doing a North Western Railway livery for the pack, which is a shame because the one that I did make for it is rather lovely. A bit fast now. If anyone has any questions about the E2, feel free to ask. When it does come out, it'll be priced at about £12. It's got five engines, or 5 different liveries, all renumberable. In London Brighton South Coast passenger livery, London Brighton South Coast black goods livery with red lining, Southern black with green lining, and plain early and late British Railways liveries. As you can see, the engine has fully working or animated motion. I can get in a bit closer. I'll put a little bit in it when we're in Sheringham station. The driver and fireman modelled by myself, and they are loosely based on people I know from the Norfolk Railway. In each different version of the engine, so London Brighton South Coast, Southern Railway and British Railways, each cat badge is correct for that company. So obviously when you're in the Southern one, he'll have a Southern Railway badge on. British Railways, he'll have a green Southern Region badge. The driver and fireman should have been animated, and the driver was actually really nice, but for some reason the export of a blender doesn't support bone animations being exported, which is how you animate the people. You use a proper skeletal structure. This is coming into Sheringham station. As you can see, it's just up there. I haven't actually been able to make the buildings for it yet, so I have to wait until I start back at the railway to get the measurements for it. I don't know what that little plume of smoke is coming from. It's just coming from the ground. I think it must have been a fire shoveled out or something. That line on the right takes you down to the fictional harbour, which I added on because I thought the railway needed one for the stories. Start slowing down. If you've never been to the North Norfolk Railway, also known as the Poppy Line, I would wholeheartedly recommend it, because it is a charming little line and all the people there are fantastic. And I'm going into the wrong platform. It's a bit of a pain because I want to take on a little bit of water, but I've still got over 1,200 gallons, so... One of the things that was supposedly wrong with the E2, which barred them from passenger services, was the inadequate water supply, which is a bit strange because If you compared it to a Great Western 5700 pannier tank, they are pretty much exactly the same on par for coal and water supply, so they could have done branch line stopping trains, but unfortunately they were regulated to piloting, shunting and light goods work. That is the goods train I will be pulling or taking down to the port. This is roughly how Sheringham Station would have looked back in the heyday. Although I've still got, obviously, to do all of the town around it, because it is quite empty at the minute, which we'll never do. I'll just stay here for a minute. Put a little bit, well, actually, I'll build the fire up a bit, because all of this section up to Weybourne is pretty much uphill, and if you're not careful you can get snookered on it, which is actually quite funny when you're firing, because it can catch us by surprise depending on which engine you're on. Let's get the fire up to 50% and then we'll head off. Yes, I was going to show the motion. This was also done from the original E2 drawings. As you can see, it's all red because you won't hardly see it. But I'm quite pleased with how this turned out, because I've managed to get it all modelled and animated correctly. The only thing you can't do is change it from forwards to reverse. But I don't think anyone's managed to do that yet, so I'm happy with it as it is. As you can see, we are inside the model boiler. No, I haven't done the tubes because, well, what would be the point? You'd never see them. I started working on this model in 2012 when I first saw the blueprints, and I took pictures of them. And the model wasn't actually, after comparing it with the actual drawings, wasn't actually that accurate. But for that period of time, it did. It did as it was needed, and it started me on the basis of doing it. I was working on it on and off, along with other engines, as you all know, for a good long while. Right, I think we are ready to go. She's blowing off quite nicely. So let's get underway. That's enough of that. One thing that I think would be really good for Train Simulator, I don't know, it's easy to say these things as a layman, but something that I think would be rather fantastic, if it could be done, was to have active signalmen. So as you went past the signal box, you could place a signalman model on it, and he would hand you or take a token from you as you went past. You'd have to click on him as you go past, and he'd swap and give you the token that you need for that section. Well, it depends what kind of branch line or kind of line you're on, because I don't think they'd do that on main lines, because they'd just be going way too fast. They should do it as they're coming into stations, which they probably should do anyway. I'm actually speeding a bit, because within the station limit it is 10 miles an hour, but this is a game, and I think this video is going to be roughly about an hour long anyway, so I'm not going to follow the rules to the letter, although I will whistle for all the crossings. This section of the line is completely grade accurate, because I have a book called Branch Lines Around Cromer by Middleton Press, which is quite an informative little book about the stations around the area. The only one that doesn't have that I'd be interested in was Norwich Thorpe, as it used to be known, which is just now Norwich Station, because there's only one station in Norwich. That's in another book which I've seen, which is how I got the information about the bit that's become the shopping complex known as Riverside. There we are, our first big bit of gradient. Just need to smooth that out. 1 in 86. That is quite steep. It's funny when you're on a proper engine on Norfolk, because you crest or you're coming up the hill and then it just disappears as you come over the crest. That's when you usually open the fire doors and wipe the injectors on, because that's when it gets you. Well, it depends which engine you're on. Some behave better than others. A bit that I accidentally demolished, so need to do that before an engine falls over. I do like this sound pack that they've done. Can't wait to see what the E2's one sounds like. Here comes another crossing. And in the 3 years that I've been at the Norfolk, I've never actually seen anyone at this crossing, so but rules is rules, and you have to whistle there, because there's a whistle board. There's a short downhill section after this bit, which gives you a bit of a break, because you can just fill in any holes in the fire. Obviously you can't do that in train sim, which would actually be quite an interesting feature if they ever sort of took suggestions. Although it'd be a bit finicky, because I suppose you could put it in this bit in the right hand corner of the hub, sort of fire in certain sections, just to keep it covered. Because if you lose your fire on a hill, that's it, you've had it. Right. One of the favourite bits for steam enthusiasts on the North Norfolk is the Weybourne Bridge, which is just up here. Probably shouldn't have come off the train quite this early, but we can see it come around the corner, then I'll go to the bridge. I'll put a bit of coal on while we're going downhill. As you can see, the smoke slowly goes black as more coal is put on. Right, we'll just nip down here. They're set in the 50s, but we still have a steam enthusiast down here, because steam is the only mode of traction allowed on the Norfolk Coastal Railway. There is actually a rule that there are no diesels allowed on the railway's metals. There she goes. As soon as we disappear, or she disappears, I will go back to the camp, because we're on a steep uphill section into Weybourne Station. Right. Bring up the toolbar. See, we are starting to lose a bit of speed, so I'll just put that on a bit more, and I shall zip up to Weybourne to make sure I'm going to go into the right track this time. In the modern day, all of this on the left is a horse riding school, and the yard quite closely is modelled on the modern Weybourne, whereas in the old days it would have been a cattle dock over on the right hand side instead of all this. This is a poppy line addition. The sheds, workshops and the inspection pit, they weren't all, and none of that was there in the original railway. Excuse me. you can see, the engine has working boiler pressure gauge and working brake pressure gauges. The windows are a bit grimy because these windows, when it is raining or snowing, they do actually get covered in rain drops, which is quite a smart little thing. I did think about trying to do it onto the whole engine, but I think it just look a bit odd. There's Weybourne station. One of the other things about Train Simulator is it puts the point switches up in the air with the track, because the track is set, I think, 0.36 of a metre in the air, and so it puts them all up in the air a little bit as well. Try and stop her next to the water column, because then we can have a bit of a drink. Although I don't think we are. I'm going to cheat and put the handbrake on a bit, just to kill some of this steam. I think we might just make it. There we are. There we go. That should be just about right. Nope. About 5 feet out, I think, so nudge her forward a little bit. As you can see, when you have the regulator fully open, she spits the fire out the chimney, and that is bang on. There we go. I'll just put the brake on, because we don't want to be moving anywhere while we're taking water. Invisible water going into the boiler directly. Just need to move that over a bit. But then again, on the engine that has a tank in the middle of the tent, that would be perfect position. So, well, it's just not important really, is it? It's just being finicky. Right, let's put the handbrake on in the guard's coach. Hopefully that'll stop the train from moving. Uncouple, and then we shall just nip up the run round. Back when the Norfolk where we first opened as a preservation line, the final stop was Weybourne. So you'd only go from Sheringham to Weybourne, but now it goes all the way up to Holt. On my railway, the station is placed where it would have originally been, quite close to the town, but because of the roads and buildings in the way now, the Holt station is, I think, about half a mile to a mile outside of the town. It's a very picturesque little station, I quite like it. As I said, this is a picturesque railway, and it is one of the most beautiful places in Norfolk, I find. But then most of Norfolk is a beautiful place, so. There you go, there's another airborne switch. Do it to a stop. 2 whistles for the signalman to change the points. And just run straight back. I'm trying to use a little bit of steam up because it's all downhill now on the way back. I would take it up to Holt, but then no doubt another good 10-15 minutes worth of video, I think. And I haven't hardly done any of Holt yet, so it would just be the station and nothing else. We would get to see the gravel pits. Yeah, we're going way too fast now. But there's no one on the rails, so we're good. If I ever do races or things on Train Simulator, and we're required to stop at stations, unless there's a rule that we're not allowed to, I will use the handbrake to stop if I'm going to overshoot by miles. Not quite there, just a more chuff. There we go. That should do us. quick look. Yep, we are going back the way we should. So now it just needs to be taken into the station. I'm going to try and be careful because on one of the attempts that I did at this video, I came in a little bit too fast, about 10 miles an hour, bumped into the coach and it just went flying into the air. Try and do this properly from the cab. I won't use any outside views besides this one. See if we can do it properly. A little bit of a bump is alright. 1 or 2 miles an hour. You see, the problem with this coach, this buffer beam is quite thin. So it is going to be a little bit of a bump. There we go. Not too bad. Buffers are nice and squeezed up so it makes coupling easier. Okay, there's one thing on some engines which is quite annoying. If you go down, try the coupling, it not go on, then you have to go back, ask them to squeeze it up. They just do that. Move it about an inch forward and then you'll be whistling Dixie. There we go. I need to change the lamp lines now. Or change the head code rather. Yeah, that should do us. One thing about the Weybourne station building, I did make a proper measurement of this building one morning when I was at the railway. So I got there stupidly early one morning and I had nothing else to do and I wanted to do a model of the station building because it's quite a nice building. So I walked around it, foot by foot, just measuring it. And I think it's come out quite nice. It is fairly accurate. It's made a bit simpler on the roof because of the polys it would need to do it. But I'm very happy with it. And most of the textures are made from proper photos I took of the station. So the brickwork, the signs. Although you can't see into the building because that would, again, take up a lot of polys. Although I might do it someday. Depends if I ever make a version of the Norfolk for release. As you can see, there is a timetable for the Norfolk. I think that's last year's. Yeah, it must be last year's. So it might not be accurate this year. There's a lady in a staircase. Obviously got some sort of phasing ability. Right, let's get on the way down to Sheringham. Because we've got stuff to do. Wind that all the way back. It does take 2 turns. I think I programmed it to have about 15-16 turns on it to do it back. That's why it moves so fast when you spin it. I would turn it down, but I think if you did it too slow it'd be a bit annoying. Right, brakes off. Full reverse gear. Don't really need much of the cylinder cross because it is fairly level here. Turn the blower off because, like I said, it's all downhill pretty much. Get another nice shot of the Weybourne Bridge. And we do have a green signal, which is always nice. Most people probably like the E2 because it was the basis for Thomas the Tank Engine, but while my like of it did start like that, I just think it is a gorgeous engine. It's very handsome and it's got quite nice lines. But I adore smaller engines. I don't like big mainline engines like 9Fs. I just think they're too big. If it's for an event like a steam gala or some such, they'd probably be good, you know, or for one of the longer lines, but a little line like this, you need nice small engines. Look, one of our engines is a Y14, formerly known as J15, which was based on the LNER and the Great Eastern Railways. Now gone back to its original condition of Great Eastern Railway number 564, I think. And in Great Eastern Blue, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a little 060 tender engine, quite similar, I think, to a Caledonian 812. Obviously different in its own ways, but they do look fairly similar. If we were going to have a Thomas Day, I would say use that for Donald or Douglas. I've had a few turns on it this year, or last year rather, and I have to tell you, she's a cracking little engine. Little steam like Billio, and she just goes like the clappers. And speaking of J15 Y14s, as I call it the J14, just to annoy people sometimes, because some people are very strictly, oh, it's the Y14, you can't call it J15 anymore. But I just call it the J15 or the Y15. But I've always known it as the J15, so I call it the J15 most of the time. Like I said, none of these engines survived into preservation unless someone who was incredibly keen on, like me, wins Euromillions or something. Then I don't think there'll ever be another one built. Unless a popular society can be formed to build one, but I did try to start one last year, but it didn't go beyond getting a few members who were, I think, mainly Thomas fans. If there's anyone out there who is a genuine steam enthusiast who adores the E2 like I do, then give us a shout either on here or my Facebook page, the Rustic Engineman's Loco and Rustic Engineman's Loco and Carriage Workshop, and maybe we can try and get it going properly. But I'd never want it to be in BR black. As most people know, I'm very anti-British Railways, because I just think they ruin the railways for the future generations. And while I know some of the branch lines did need closing because they just weren't making any money at all, I think they just went about it way too fast, and for all that the rails have done for us, if we hadn't had them, we would have been royally snookered in World War I and II. And just to get rid of steam like as the way they did, I just think that's quite a betrayal. These glorious machines, I know it's not practical, but I think there should have been one of every class saved, just so that there was something of it. Because now all there is of the E2s is Thomas the Tank Engine, the old Holman model, which isn't in production anymore, unfortunately, because they just do the Thomas the Tank Engine version. And this, and one 3.5 inch gauge model, which looks rather smashing when it's going. I've only seen videos of it, but I'd like to see it in real life one day because it looks quite nice. Here we are at the empty station again. I wonder whether just put something there just so there's something there every now and then. But I think I will eventually make my own version of a foot crossing, because there's only one in Train Simulator and they're all the same, and they all have... Hang on. There's the floating fence. Obviously needs fixing. But anyway, there's only one... There's only one foot crossing in Train Simulator, and they've all got electric warnings on them, which this road would never have. I should be gaining speed quite well, and that's why I'm not doing hardly anything, because I've got the handbrake on the coach. I probably have a wheel flat by now, quite well and truly flattened. But as it is, that's train simulator, and we don't have to really worry about it. And that's the guard's fault anyway, not mine. There you go, that's a bit better. Actually speeding up now. Next to the railway on the right hand side, as you come down to Sheringham, is a rather hilly golf course. One of the fun things to do is to follow the train down on the road. I've actually done this a couple of times at the end of the day. There's the Golf Course Hotel, which might feature in a story at some point, I don't know. It probably won't, because it has nothing really to do with the railway. At 10 miles an hour at the crossing now. So we will actually observe the rules this time, and we're going into the, well, we should be going into the right platform because we came out of the wrong one as we went down, but make sure the points are set right because I don't want to muck about. Yeah. I will be leaving the coaches in the station because there's no real need to change them, to put them back, and that is how we pretty much do things on the Norfolk anyway. We leave them in the station unless it's the vintage set, which then gets sort of shunted away when it's done with the quad arts. They're quite a nice set of vintage stock, like I said, the vintage set, which comprises of 5 completely different coaches, which are all different sizes, which is quite funny to look at because they slowly go up as you go back on the train. We also have a set called the quad arts, which were London North Eastern Railway. They look rather smashing when they're coupled behind a B12. But most of our coaches are British Railways Mark 1s. They are very much a British Railways based railway, which is unfortunate because I think the Big Four had a lot more character than British Railways, although British Railways did have their, as some people call it, blood and custard livery on the coaches, which I quite like. Yeah, there is the Railways door in public. I'm going to bung some coal in because we need it, and I will bung some water in as well. It's a bit awkward to make Sheringham Station because after the platform it's all level, so I've had to make odd little bits to make it level. There's probably an easier way of doing it, but I haven't found it yet, so I'm quite happy with the result. Just got to go and measure the building one morning, or one afternoon, one day. Sorry if my narration is a bit boring, but this is my first time doing it, and we are 3/4 of an hour into this video. Hopefully I can not crash for the rest of it. I'll just bung the handbrake on in the guard's coach and uncouple. Actually, I'm going to do this as you would do it if you were at the railway. Driver's going to go down and do the coupling. Bit too low, but there you go. Should have looked first. There we are. And back to the cab. There's out the controls. Right. Leave the water as it is, because there's a steep gradient down to the port. But we'll put the blower on for a second, because we are getting a bit low on pressure. There we are, nice big black fluff. We should have right engine now, shouldn't we? That will be number 3 and number 8, I think. Yep, there we go. Take off that one. Could be our light engine. Hang on, that's the wrong one. There we go. There we are set to go the right way. If you ever do get to go to Norfolk at any point in your life, do go to Sheringham. Even if you don't go on the railway, it is a fantastic seaside town. And so is Cromer, they're both lovely. Both have fantastic fish and chip shops. Wink. When I do build the station buildings, I'm going to put the original building on platform 2, even though I'll have to just do it from photo references, because it has of course been demolished for a good many years, thanks to British Railways. No, yes, we were going the right way. Yes. Yep, we're going the right way. Put the brake on. There we are. This left-hand side is usually filled with coaches. Wonder whether to put a couple in there just for the stories. Waiting to be restored. A little bit about steam by the sea. The railway is an amalgamation of all of the branch lines around Norwich and Cromer and Holt, although it is quite fictitious in some regards, because originally after Holt it would have gone to Melton Constable, which was a massive depot, I think, looking from the track plans of the old station. And a couple of other stations. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but because of, obviously, there's only so much I can get off of Google Maps, being the modern day version of the railway, I've bolted my fictional station of High Coleman onto the line after Holt. The E2's name in the stories is Emma. She wears a London Brighton South Coast passenger livery, even though when she went to the railway she wore her black livery, but she had always loved the passenger livery, so she asked if she could be painted in it when she was overhauled. Oh, that's gonna crash. No, we're good. See, now that's something you would never get in trains. It would either just bump into the train and sort of bounce off the rails, or the train would just move with you immediately. But in this, you get a nice bump action. I better change the head codes again. Number 5 and number 8, wasn't it? There you go. Each end's head codes are separate from each other, so when you do one end, you won't get the other end as well. 3 and 4, I think, for a goods train. Although I'm wondering whether to run around it in the station. So we go down in front of it. I think we'll be fine. Again, I apologise for the scintillating narration, but you can always turn the volume down or put music on if you want. I'm not going to be fussy about it. And by the way, I know I might sound like a 12-year-old, but I'm actually 25. So, just in case anyone's wondering, hang on, what's this 12-year-old doing releasing an engine? No, I'm not 25. I'm not 12 rather. There she goes. Emma came to the Norfolk Coastal Railway in the First World War when she was bombed and quite badly damaged, but not irreparably damaged. It was possible to repair her, but the managers at London Brighton didn't want to spend that capital on restoring an engine which they could just replace for probably about the same amount of money. She was quite badly torn up, along with her brother Thomas. They were both working an ammunition train and they were shot at. Although actually no, they wouldn't have been bombed, would they? Because it's too early for bombers, isn't it? They were both badly damaged in the First World War. But then again, they would have been working down at Southampton or Dover, wouldn't they? So they probably... Oh dear, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? No, I'm not. We're going to be relying on the guard, so we will probably crash if he's as good as he was on the coaches. Ha ha ha. Because we can't see hardly down the line because he's in the way. Again, I don't know what that column of smoke is. It's probably a building I've accidentally buried in the earth. You can't go into it, into the ground in drive mode, but you can in surveyor mode. So maybe when I've done a bit of goods work, I'll take her down. I'll leave the scenario and see what it is. We can all find out together. This is a signal box that I made based on a model kit which is done by Metcalf, I think. It's quite nice. I know it never had green leaves in them, but I didn't know that at the time I made it, so I'll probably change them to yellow at some point. And the glass texture needs redoing as well because I've actually figured out how to do it properly now. And she comes going nice and slowly, which is probably the best thing for it because we're going backwards and it's like I said, it's a really steep gradient. There's actually a few feet, that's 1 in 33 or something like that. Let's go out and give them a token. If anyone doesn't know what I mean by tokens, if you're on a single track section of line, you can't go down unless you have, well it's probably the same on all stretches of line, you can't go down unless you receive the right signal, the right token or staff from the signalman, which you hand over as you're going past, then you surrender it to the signalman at the other end of the section. There we go. We'll see if you can get into HD on this, I don't know if you will, but down here it will tell you what the gradient is, and there's a couple of 70s, one little stretch of 30, which is I think a bit odd, but I think that's just a muck-up by me. Again, like in Chroma, because I've added this bit on, I've had to go through the town, meaning that some of the houses are going to be destroyed, just to make way for a little bit of railway, which never existed. But hey-ho, it's my railway, I can do what I want. There we are, 1 in 33. Just for about the length of this train, actually. And that levels out a bit to 1 in 87. Part of the running operation of this Norfolk Coastal Railway is if you come down here, unless you've got a banker engine to take you down, you have to break your trains up into two, and if they're longer than this. Past a certain weight or length, they have to be either taken down with a pilot engine or broken up, left in the sidings at the station and taken down in chunks. Gonna have a look down on the dock. The basis for this was from a model railway I saw in Model Rail magazine. As soon as I saw it, I just fell in love with this. I can't say which company it's from because it's got all sorts in it. It's got London Brighton Terriers, it's got a J70 tram, it's got all sorts in it. But it was absolutely lovely, and I always thought if I was going to make my own route, I would put it in it. Actually, I did have to do a bit of shunting last night when I tried it, but because I've gone down on the front of the train this time, I can just go straight into the siding. Which is this one up at the end, yeah, with a fishing boat next to it, even though there's no fish. You can see there's a battleship half sunk in the background of the port. That is a ship that was damaged during World War II. We're going way too fast. I will just jam the handbrake over a minute because I will end up in the drink. Yeah, there's the next signal box. Click to give them the token on my fictional bit of coding. Anyone from Train Simulator or Dovetail Games is listening, I think that'd be quite a handy little feature. Just add that extra bit of realism to it. If there is anyone from Dovetail Games is listening, this is a fantastic simulation. First time I played it, I fell in love with it. Just because of the physics. And because of the lovely shininess on engines that you can get. I don't know whether to try and do this properly or... because I don't want to have to end this video after 50 minutes by ending up in the sea. What the hell, I'll give it a go. If we crash, we crash, if we don't, we don't. Look, if this was real life, the guard would be waving us in with the appropriate signals. According to the HUD, I still have a few meters to go, but I don't really trust it. See how much farther we have got to go. Oh, a good way left to go yet. So whack the regulator for a second, just to get us down there. Might be worth changing sides because I can actually see it then. Well, they're starting to straighten out, so... although in the real life situation, both driver and fireman will be looking out to make sure they can see the guard. One thing which is handy, if you go on the proper side, is if you know roughly how long the siding is, you can watch the shadows and see how much further you got to go. Right, brakes on. Right, I think that'll do us. Put the handbrake for the guard van on. Just go and have a look. Lie down properly. Oh yeah, we're a few feet short, but I think we're in. I'm happy with that. Everyone else is happy with that. Back to the battleship. It was damaged in the channel. I don't know if you'd call it that in the Norfolk area. I don't know if it'd be called channel or something else. But anyway, it was damaged during World War II, and it was brought back, but before they could get it back into a dry dock, it sank, and so it was left there as a kind of memorial. Thankfully all the crew survived, so that's one plus, and it does actually add a little bit of scenery to the port. There is a preservation society, I say it's a preservation society, hoping to restore it one day, but they at the minute don't have anywhere near the proper funds to do it. They've only just started, and they're just trying to keep it from getting into a worse condition at the minute. There's a couple of fishing boats. And that is the E2 pretty much done with. for this trip. Might just take her up to the shed, put her on a turntable, set her into the shed for the day. Heading back light engine is quite a nice thing, because you've done your day's work and you're going to get the engine ready for bed. Well, we will be heading backwards after we get into Sheringham station, so I am going to put number 8 on. To do the lamps, it's control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. In case anyone was wondering, but that's the same controls that every other engine has, I think. Hang on, that's the wrong lamp, sorry. We don't want that, we want that one. There we go, just get the token back. Then we shall steam off up the line. Apart from points, I'll try to do the rest of this video from the cab. See if I can do it. So I might just go outside for a few screens, for a few nice views. Because let's face it, they get a bit boring after a while. Because at the end of the day, everyone will be in bed, and well, it says it's 12:59, but let's pretend it's mid-afternoon to late afternoon in the winter. Nah, it's not. But there's not anyone there at the minute because there's no Sheringham yet, hardly. So I think we're going to gun it. This will hopefully look quite nice when it's all towned up and everything, but at the minute it does just look a bit bleak. I'm slowly getting on with it. It's taken me about a month to get, I don't know, about 2 weeks if you put all the time together and squeeze that up, because I've been doing it on and off for a good while now. But I'm slowly getting on with the section between Cromer and Sheringham, which has done look quite nice, as you saw as we went down. And I'll try not to forget to find out where that bit of smoke is at the end, just in case anyone is interested at all. I think we're slowed down to about 8 miles an hour, but just because I wasn't paying attention. There we go, we're on the 1 in 33. I'm surprised we're actually gaining speed on this, but I didn't think we would. But you can see why trains have to be broken up to go down to the port, although I might change that if I start making episodes, because that's a bit silly having a 1 in 33. I don't think any railway in its right mind would have a section like that, or a slow section. We're heading back into Sheringham station. We have to cross the road to get the token, but I suppose I could have stopped in. Oh, handbrake time. Whee! Go clean past it. There we go. Can I see the point lever? Yes, I can. There we go. I think I put the signal box a little bit too far down. I think it should be up a bit closer to the... Although, I think it's about right actually, because it's about an engine's length between the points and the signal box, so I think we're just about there. As you can see, this coal has been slowly going down. It is animated to go down as the coal is shoveled into the fire. See what a steam generation is. Yeah, I'm not generating that much steam, which is a bit odd. I'm using like twice as much. There we go. No. There we go, it's a bit better. Probably helps if I put the reverser up a bit. If anyone doesn't know, the reverser is basically the gears of a steam engine. You wind it either from full forward or full back. Well, you wind it in, and that essentially is your gears. That admits steam for less of the piston stroke, which basically means you're using less steam for less of the time. Which is good if you're on a big engine or if you're just on safe steam, which I do now because I've gone down to 147 pounds of pressure, which is quite rare on this little engine. But I have been running for over an hour, so that's not surprising. Right, let's get her up to speed a bit. Just put the dampers on. I forgot to say them. The engine does have dampers. Just bung open them, bung them open. You can see the gauge glasses work because it's been slowly altering itself throughout the trip. We're going 27 miles an hour now, so I shall shut the regulator entirely. I got a book a few months ago by someone who worked on the Southern Railway just as it was changed over to BR. And he worked on the first, I think it was either the first or second D2. Yeah, it was 101, I think, except the rectangular tanks instead of the extended ones. And he said that if you were the fireman on the engine, there was every chance that when the driver either opened it or shut it, the fireman had a good chance of getting whacked in the backside by the other handle. But these were shunting engines, so it's not surprising that they did have double-ended regulator handles. There she goes. Nip up to Westminster. Oh, it's not Westminster yet, it's the road. Westminster is just up there, so we'll stick here just to watch the train go by. There we go. We'll nip over to the station and watch her go through. Even though she has no train to speak of. Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's up there, isn't it? So because this section of the line isn't North Norfolk, I don't know much about it, except there's West Shunting between Sheringham and Cromer. They're only supposed to whistle at certain points throughout the journey, but I like whistling, so I'll whistle whenever I want. It's my railway. And my engine, so going back to the question of coal and water capacity for E2s, if you look at some of the other branch line engines, it is quite staggering that these weren't used as sort of stopping passenger trains, because they had terriers doing stopping passenger trains, didn't they? And they were tiny little things. Something I would quite like to work on at some point if we ever get one at the North Norfolk. Still waiting for us to get a pannier there. Some people say that the Great Western did a lot of things wrong, and one of the alternate meanings of GWR was that Gresley was right, which I should imagine was made up by LNER people. But quite frankly, if anyone's going to put a flappy paddle fire door or a trapdoor on the fire hole, I think you're blooming nuts, because I've been on 2 of them, and while it's doable, it's nowhere near as easy just having it open to each side. I've known some firemen just sort of cheating open a large door, because on a flappy paddle fire door, as I call them, you get the little door which opens a little bit, then you have to fire through that half hole, and then you've got the big door which opens up to let you see the whole fire and the whole box basically. And some firemen I've seen, myself included sometimes, well, the first time I went on one, because it was I think it was an N7, and I did not get on with that engine. Every time I went on it, it hurt me in some way, shape or form. But anyway, it's much easier to just open up the door and fire through there, although most drivers don't let you do it. But I had to go on Mayflower during the summer, and it was fairly easy. I can't fault Mayflower, although it did give me a quite nice burn on my arm at the end of the day. Met someone a little while ago who said, if you ever go on from a branch line to mainline running, you'll never think of branch line running in the same way again, just because it's that different. And you might find it quite boring, but I don't know. Well, I'll never go on the main line because I'm a branch liner. That's why I called my, I don't know what to call it, a sort of outfit, the rustic engineman, because that's the kind of railways I like. I like the little country branch line that toddles off to nowhere in particular. Just taking people to and from their place of work and back home again. Just tootling along, minding its own business, letting the world pass it by. This is some of the section I've managed to do on the route so far. There's obviously a lot more to do, but I think if you're just looking from the line, from the fireman's side, I think it looks quite nice, doesn't it? Obviously it still has a lot more to do, like I said, but it's starting to look quite nice. It'll look really nice when it's finished. Just dreading how long this video is going to take to upload to YouTube. I suppose I don't really need to do any editing on it, so I do need to splice in a little bit of the changing numbers, which I will do at the end. And the engine's back in its shed. And we're going to blast down into Cromer because there's nothing to stop us from doing it. We get a nice little chuffy chuff. And that's rather lovely sound pack. If anyone's going to race the U2s, I have set the limit for their speed at about 75 miles an hour, so if you want to take them faster than that, then you won't. Unless you know how to edit the coding. And as a little side note, I will say to anyone listening who is thinking about making stuff for Train Simulator, you have to have a lot of patience, a lot of time, and you have to be willing to just sort of go back on yourself so many times to just change one tiny little thing. Because I think I started this back at the very end of May, sort of trying to get it into Train Simulator, and it's only just now gotten to a point where I'm ready to say, yep, that's done. Get us into the yard, although it's not done for some reason. There we go. Right, so we're going to go on the turntable, so let's change that one obviously. Oh, we're stopped completely. didn't mean that to happen, but we've got handbrake on, so that's going to happen. Show the handbrake control now. It doesn't actually animate it for some reason, it's just done. Although it is animated, I don't know why it didn't do it properly. But there you go. Right, I have to be careful because otherwise I'm going to go into the turntable well. Like a certain little Great Western. Shut the sound box to get rid of a bit of steam. Right. Oh no! Wrong siding. There we go. One of the great little things about Train Simulator is on the left hand side of the heads-up display you get a little centre of gravity ball, which I think is rather cool because as you're going around a really sharp bend you can see how close to falling off you are. Right, there we go. Point set the right way this time. If we can get the turntable around to where we want it before we get there. There we go. Coming round now. Some of the other engines that will be featuring in my stories are a Y14 named Jerry, who has a rather smart looking tash. He's an old engine, even though he's only built in 1912, but by this story he'd have been about 40-50 years old. But he is an old man, has been since the day he was built. He's a very proper engine and he likes things done just right. Move forward a little bit to make it balance the turntable. I don't know whether I'll just do a full circle. Never actually used a turntable before properly, so I've knocked about with it a couple of times, but I've never actually used it. So we'll just do a nice full circle because I want to show you how to do the numbers. I suppose if you're using Train Simulator, you probably already know how to use the numbers, so I don't actually need to show you that, so I'll just turn it back around and get her into the shed. Some of the other engines that will be in the stories are a Great Western pannier tank called Patrick, a 1400 called Mike, a couple of Hunsler Industrials, one of which runs on the North Norfolk called Ringhall, one of which is no more, named Newstead. Who will be renamed Charlotte for the stories because Newstead is a bit of an odd name. Let's see what it says. There's an old M&GN engine, I can't remember what its class name is, I think it's something like C class, it's a 440, and it's quite a nice looking engine. But at the start of the story, that's just going off to be restored because the fellow who bought it from the M&GN before they went bust, he died, but before he did die, he set up a preservation society to look after the engine. Let's see what it says. There's the B12, whose name is Bella. The M&GN 440's name is Major John, I think. I think that's it, Major John. I haven't looked at that part of the story yet, or for a while, so I'm not 100% sure. Let's see what else is there. There's going to be a Caledonian 812, which sounds a bit odd because it's coming all the way from Scotland, but the owner of that is a friend of the new controller on the road, and I'm still going backwards. We'll have to put it in the right reverser position. Right, there we go. Set her on the inspection pit, and that is just done. I hope you've enjoyed this leap into insanity, but I wouldn't say insanity, but boredom I'd say. Depends on how interested you are in this engine and how much I've droned on. But the E2 should be out in a few weeks, depending on how much longer it takes for Steam Sound Supreme to do the sound pack. And I hope you'll enjoy it when it does come out, because, well, a lot of the time I've been trying to pull my hair out while making it. I have actually quite enjoyed the process, and now that this one is finished, because all my engines are going to be virtually the same sort of size, nothing bigger than a B12, I don't think, I should be pretty much set up to do the rest of them. The engines I'm making are in this order. First the E12, then it's going to be the Y14 and J15 in both variations, because they are quite different to look at. And you'll see why if you look them up. Then it will be, I think it's a little Great Eastern Railway engine called Enfield. It's a 060. I saw it when I was at the National Museum a couple of years ago, and I thought it was quite a sweet little engine. It's smaller than an E2 but bigger than a Hunslet Industrial, which makes it a sort of mid-sized engine. Then, if no one has done it by that point, it will be a London Brighton Terrier. And then there's one, I think it's called Brookfield. It depends on what condition it's in and if I can get the proper measurements for it. I might do that, I'm not sure yet. I'm not making any promises. But the first 4 are definites, because they are engines I quite like. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this little saunter up the Norfolk Coastal Railway. And stay tuned for more updates. I'll probably do a proper little trailer for the E2s when they get closer to their proper launch date. This was just a little get to know you video, just so everyone could see how mad I am and see how nice the engine is. I think it's come out as quite a nice engine. Thank you for watching, and good afternoon, good morning or good night, whichever one it is.